Welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 show to bring you all things Club America in English. Your hosts for today, Ivan Pineda, Christian Rosendo, and everyone's favorite cowboy, Dylan Jimenez. Let's start the show.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Eagle Eye Podcast. Today, we're going to be recapping and breaking down that 3-1 victory against Tigres. And a little bit later on, we're going to be joined by a very special guest who's going to be helping us break down and preview the upcoming game against FC Juarez, which is going to be played on this Friday. But as always, let me introduce my co-host for tonight. It's Brooklyn's very own Mr. AJ. AJ, how are we, my friend?
I'm doing good. Just trying to manage life right now, but for the most part, I'm doing good. How about you, Ivan?
Good, excited, ready to go. Good to have you here. Good to be able to keep our minds off other things while our nation over here in the United States is dealing with whether or not we're going to have a new president and all that stuff. But at least for the meantime, we'll be able to talk about something that's actually good, and that is Las Águilas del América. So, with that said, I do want to address the fact that our beloved Cowboy isn't here as he always hasn't. He has not been here for quite a while, but huge shout out to him because he is covering tonight's election over in Texas, and we wish our beloved Cowboy the best of luck. We know that he's been very stressed out over this, but Dylan, we wish you a great amount of support for what you're doing. And then, of course, Christian, who is unable to come because he is in line still waiting to vote, which is weird, AJ, because correct me if I'm not wrong, but your guys' polls have closed for quite some time now.
Yep, they've already been closed.
So I don't know where Christian is at. He might be trying to put more votes in other states, and maybe that's why he wasn't able to be here today. But let's talk America. Let's talk Las Águilas going up against Tigres. AJ, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready whenever you are.
Alrighty then. So America ended up going up against Tigres in what was a very crucial match for very, very three important points, because if we ended up winning that game, we would have secured ourselves in the top 4 spot, meaning we wouldn't have to go through the repechaje, meaning that we would have had ourselves a good chunk of weeks to recuperate, rest, and know at least who our opponent is going to be, and not having to go through that repechaje phase, which is exactly what America needed. They needed to get the 3 points. They ended up getting the 3 points. AJ, how did you feel coming away after Sunday's match where America ended up winning 3-1?
Completely relieved, because earlier I was just stressed outside about how Tigres are going to be, especially with the team that they got. But after seeing the end result of this match, really satisfied. And to say this is one of the match, I'd say one of the highlights of the season for America, as they just proved to Tigres that they were the more dominant side at the very end of the match. The midfield was pretty solid. Defense was solid. The forwards, well, they're not really being able to get much done, but they did have some opportunities. But I feel like all in all, just this team played really well, despite only conceding 1 goal. But it was just a goal in the 89th minute, in which Tigres really couldn't do much left, especially with the late goal coming from Cordova in the 95th minute. So all in all, I'm just really happy with this result.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to kind of unpack here, and we'll kind of go through it, piece by piece. But like you mentioned, our defense looked very good, very solid, against a very good Tigres side. And then, like you mentioned, our midfield looked like exactly what we needed them to look like, closing off spaces, getting stuff going for the attackers, making good movement, making good passes. And then, of course, the forwards, whilst they didn't, bring up a big amount of scoring into the game, at least they were there, they were fighting, they were pushing, right? Not the best game of Gio, but I'm not saying that was his worst game either. Henry, again, a little bit under the radar for my liking, yet he still had a couple of chances that if the referee calls it one way, he would have been on the score sheet. Unfortunately, it doesn't fall for him, but I don't know. I need him to break that duck. I need Henry to break that duck. We'll talk a little bit more about him, and the fact that we're not going to have Viñas for this upcoming match again will be interesting. But we'll talk a little bit more about Henry. And then, of course, Ochoa's returned back in goal, meaning we had our captain for that night. And I think he had a pretty good, solid game back in goal. I don't know what you think.
Just no. It seemed like as if he never lost that touch since he first got injured. So just getting right back into a really important match against an important team, against a big team like Tigres in this season, he's just done really well. It seemed like really, like I mentioned before, he lost no touch whatsoever was making sure his defense was solid, making the big saves, everything he's pretty much just been doing, seeing it as if like he's always been there from the get-go. So just really happy just to see him back wearing that captain's armband and playing a really crucial role in this victory against Tigres.
Yeah, no. So I mean, let's talk about this game, AJ. We came a little bit suspected. We came into this game a little bit hesitant as to what America side we're going to get, as always. But it was nice to see that America took the game straight to Tigres. It was straight from the get-go, just go and take the game to Tigres. There was a moment in the first half and where we let Tigres settle in and they had a little bit more of the ball and we were a little bit more hesitant. But I think, once that period of spell went over, I think for the most part, this whole game, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt like this was an America side that was just one step above Tigres. I mean, I felt like we had more of the ball possession, and even when we didn't have the ball, we closed off spaces pretty well. And I just felt that it was just good movement all around. I'm not saying we had the most round and perfect game, like kind of the scoreline will allude to, but I do think that we looked much better than we have in weeks prior.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. I'm just looking here at some of the stats. Like, I feel like the stats doesn't really reflect completely as how America truly played. They only had 3 shots less against Tigres with 43% possession. But also, like you mentioned, it seemed like despite them not having as much of the ball, they made the most out of it compared to Tigres, where Tigres had slightly more shots than America, but then it seemed like those shots maybe were in the best place, and I just feel like Ochoa didn't have too much of an issue trying to make those saves. But no, just America, as soon as they had the ball, they already had an idea in mind of what they wanted to do in order to create a chance to get a shot on goal, which is pretty much exactly what happened for us throughout this time, really. And then from Tigres, despite having a lot of chances, their goal didn't really come through until the 89th minute. So just as mentioned, it took them that long to finally get a goal, and it just felt like the defense all throughout the entire Metro America was just really solid. They weren't really making much mistakes. We weren't seeing that many gaps later on to the match compared to what it was in the beginning. So just know, America pretty much they took the game to Tigres. They knew what they had to do to get the 3 points, and they got the 3 points that they needed.
It's exactly what we wanted to see from an America side that we knew was lacking creativity, and I mentioned that one of the biggest players to have a game for me against Tigres had to be Sebastian Cordova. Talked about this last week. And to my liking, he stepped it up. He completely, closed my mouth in regards to the criticism that I had against him. And this is a player that we've mentioned before has the tendency to be a very confidence-based player. And the fact that, he's gotten himself not only these 2 goals but such a well-rounded performance. He's in the team of the week for this past jornada. So, I mean, all of these things build on this for the player. And I think it's just exactly what we needed. And I told you this, AJ, last week, is the fact that Cordoba needs to start going on a good run if we want to see the best of him for the Liga. And, it had to start against Tigres. Gladly it did. Now I think it's up to him to carry it and kind of move and push the momentum, but not just him, but the team itself in this upcoming game against Juarez, which we'll get to in a little bit later. But yeah, no, it was very promising. Everything that we saw out on the pitch, everything that we alluded to actually came to fruition. I mean, what a year that I'm sitting here and I'm giving Emmanuel Aguilera praises for his, great center back performance and getting that goal away too, which wasn't even a penalty now. So a lot of crazy things going on, but at least the positive things that we can take away from this game is the fact that America came out, played the game, took the game to Tigres, and because of that, they were the better side, came out with the victory, and I think no one can actually dispute the fact that America deserves all 3 points. And then 2, from that, something I can't believe I have to highlight, but the fact that we didn't get any injuries, AJ, in this game is another good thing. And I'm definitely throwing that in the positive section because you never know at these points. And it was just good to see that this America side perform. And anything else you kind of want to highlight from the team in general before we start talking a little bit more about the goals?
I was just really impressed with Luis Fuentes. We mentioned a bit before that he was looking like the Luis Fuentes that first arrived in America from last season, where he was looking like arguably one of the best signs, if not the best sign that we made during the transfer window, despite him just being a free agent, which is what I like to see because we see him pushing up on the field at times where he's getting himself involved in the play and making a through ball or a pass to one of the midfielders. So I just really like seeing how Luis Fuentes was just able to just go up as if, what he was doing from last season. I feel that's just what I really like, because I did mention when he first arrived into this team again this season as a free agent. And I also mentioned that I feel like if he can get himself into a rhythm and back to where he was before from last season, he could prove to be a really key player into this in this America team and in defense. And I feel like he's been doing that exactly. And this is a match where I feel like this is where he can start getting a good run for him, considering that he's also playing a position where he's more comfortable with compared to the center back position.
No, yeah, definitely. And I think this is a player that, again, heavily criticized since his return. But again, some of that actually has to fall on expectations as to, this guy was a free agent when he came into America right now, and he hadn't been playing since the whole kind of stop of the Clausura last season due to the whole COVID stuff. And then, asking him to come back and putting him in the starting 11 right away due to on the kind of all these injuries and lack of depth. And so, yeah, he was going to be rusty. And the fact that it's taken him a little bit this long, I mean, it just goes to show that, he's at that age where it's going to take him a little bit longer to kind of get that match sharpness. But it looks like he's finally gotten to that point where we're like, okay, this is the Luis Fuentes that we like, and this is the Luis Fuentes that we need to continue that good run of form. So it will be interesting to see whether or not he can carry that. Hopefully he does, because again, it's a position that we've definitely struggled for the longest time, and we thought we kind of had that patched up with George, but now we've had to put George on the right because of the whole Paul Aguilar situation. And again, now we're left up in arms as to who is going to cover that left back position, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not Fuentes can continue his good run of form. But it is someone that I do hope does, because he can prove very, very vital for us going forward. But let's talk a little bit more about these goals, AJ, because I think we don't highlight most of the goals enough here when we talk about games. Let's talk about the first one. Cordoba's little magical touch here to squeeze it past Noel Guzman, which, by the way, huge mistake by the goalkeeper, but very, very good intuitive instinct from Cordoba to be able to sneak that through. Whether or not we go and ask Cordoba whether he tried that, he'll probably say yes. We'll never know if that was his true intention. But at the end of the day, it was a very good goal. Well, how did you look at it, AJ?
Oh, I just loved it, really. It just reminded me of a goal that I did score against my friends during field day back in high school. So just like seeing how that goal was is like, hey, that looked like me when I scored that goal. But no, it was just really nice. And to see that how I just like highlighting that Santiago Casas got a yellow card, but then right immediately he makes a really great play in which he gets the ball right to Córdoba, which allowed him to score the goal. Just seeing that goal from Córdoba, it's like that's the Córdoba that we like to see. And how you mentioned before, a confidence-based player, and with that goal, that definitely boosted his confidence up. And I just loved seeing that, how he scored that goal. What I feel like it looked like it was kind of effortless in a way for him, just like to see how he just scored that. I was just really amazed at how he just scored that first goal with that magic touch. And as you mentioned, by the mistake made by Nahuel Guzman, it was a big mistake. It just seemed like he's kind of like scratching the back of his one, like, how did I just let that ball go right in at that angle as well?
Yeah, he was trying to anticipate himself a little bit. But the curious thing that I want to take away from this is that, ladies and gentlemen, AJ is saying that he is as good as Cordoba.
Yo, no. No. Just because I scored a goal just like this, not mean I'm as good as Cordoba. I'm rusty. I retired at a young age.
Well, it's never too late to strap on those cleats again, my friend. But yeah, it was a really good goal. Poor execution by Noel Guzman for trying to anticipate it, but again, a good read by Cordoba. And then from there, you kind of see the way that the game transcends, and then you think, okay, you're up 1-0, you're looking good. Although Tigres had a little bit of chances here and there, like you mentioned, Ochoa, really good stops, but I don't think any of them were like, oh my goodness, like I seriously thought that was gonna go in. I think they were shots and saves that you'd expect Ochoa to make, and it was good to see that save after save, you saw more confidence building, not just in himself, but in the defense. And I think it definitely helped to kind of, block Tigres out for the majority of time that we did. And then, of course, you move on and the team had some chances, not really clear cut, but we were starting to make a little bit of something. Like I mentioned, Gio wasn't the biggest, like highlight of the whole game. I think Leo was trying to be as much as involved as he could be. I just don't think that actually panned out for him. I think sometimes he was trying to do a little bit too much. I think he wanted to just have the ball, try to make something happen, but I think he maybe got a little bit too flabbergasted by the options that he wanted to make happen. That at the end of the day, he either gave a poor pass or ended up losing possession, or just kind of ended up running into a situation where he really just backed himself into a corner. But again, it's promising to see that Leo Suarez wants to have the ball, that he wants to take players on. It's just the fact that he has to execute it correctly. That's the one thing I do want to be a little nitpicky about. But overall, I think Leo had a decent game, a little bit better game than Gio. Although Gio didn't have the best of games. But again, I wouldn't crucify him and say that he was the worst player out on that pitch either. I think the substitutions by Piojo were actually good. I don't know if you agree with me on that, AJ.
No. All in all, I feel like some of the substitutes he made, they were well done, pretty much. Some of the players are getting a bit tired. He felt like there's a needed change that needs to be made right now, like the Gio substitution. We get to see Ibargüen getting some playing time, which is what I like to see, because he is one of those players I feel like he can provide some kind of impact into the team. Consider how Gio was having the greatest of games at the time. We put Ibargüen in to give him at least 30 minutes of playtime, which is what I liked. And then just the Reacher side substitution, yeah, pretty much he was already tired. I feel like it was best for him to just to take some rest pretty much. So that's when we put him also go inside, which he did happen to play a key part at the very end of the match, and then we get to see some Sergio Diaz action on the field. So I like the substitutions that he made.
I will talk about those last two substitutions in also Gonzalez and Diaz, but let's talk a little bit about Ibargüen for a second, because I get it. He hasn't been as active. You know, he had the injury, then he got COVID, and then now it's, little by little you have to implement him, although it's hard to, because now you're getting to the latter stages of the season where now, you should be in game rhythm. But he was just very frustrated. I think Gio had a much better game than Ibargüen in those 30 minutes. Again, that's harsh because, he only has 30 minutes to make an impact, but I don't know, even when we get scored on, I think Ibargüen has a little bit of fault in that as well. It's just I didn't not the fact that I see him kind of walking on the pitch like Roger does. It's just like I think the narrator's perfectly phrased it. I think he's stuck in third gear. He can't really get to that fourth one. I feel like he's just very trabado, if I make any sense. Like he's trying to press on the clutch and go, but just something's not making it go. And that's the frustrating thing, because we know what Ibargüen can do. And I think Gibran Araiza has said it before too on the broadcast, is he owes a debt of he owes a debt to the Americanismo community and to the fans and to the club, because he hasn't been the Ibargüen that we were promised, the Ibargüen that was in Atlético Nacional. The one that, has shown us glimpses of what he's capable of doing, like, the great goals that he scored against Chivas and the great plays and all that stuff. It's frustrating to see, but you're right, AJ. It's promising to see him get on the pitch again. It's just I need to see a little bit more fight out of him, right? Because another player that came in and that think completely showed a lot of fight and showed a lot of good stuff was Sergio Diaz.
Yeah, no,
he only had what, like 5 minutes on the pitch?
Pretty much, yeah, about like 9 minutes. But just no, it was just really nice to see how like some of these players, despite like with the amounts that they're only given, they're able to give it their all as if they've been playing there from the get-go. So it's just really nice to see that how you get a couple of fresh legs right in, and they are immediately just giving it their 110% on the field, despite what the amounts that they're only given. And I feel like with him just only being in that kind of mid, Diaz is probably saying that no worries, it's fine. I can play these minutes that you need me to do. I'll do everything that I possibly can to help the team out, which he was showing fight, as you mentioned.
He did. He had a great little, I think it was like around the 90th minute when he was trying to take the ball to the corner flag, and he took on like two Tigres players, and it was phenomenal. It was great to see. And it's exactly what you wanted to get out of Sergio Diaz after that whole kind of incident where he was, put in and then taken out in the same half. So, props to Sergio Diaz for coming in and doing what he was instructed to do. But before we talk about also Gonzalez and the great pass that he gives to Cordoba to make that, third goal, let's talk a little bit about the second goal that was kind of called back by Henry Martin. Of course, gets a nice little chip over, dinks it off the post. What looks like to be hits the ball hits the post and then crosses the line although it's not 100% sure. Referee calls it back, no goal. And AJ, we're not here to dispute the referee calls because at the end of the day, they are what they are, and 9 times out of 10, they hardly ever get called back. Just quickly, was it a goal to you? Do you think that ball crossed the line?
Yes, it did. It was a ball. It was a goal to me.
It was a goal to you. It was a goal to me, and I think it was a goal to a lot of people listening to right now. But unfortunately, it didn't get called that way. So in that moment, I had a little bit of panic in me because I thought, well, we were playing good. We scored this goal. The team just thought that they scored this goal. Henry finally breaking this duck. Like things are looking on the up and up. And then I see the goal called back, and I'm thinking, okay, what is this going to do to the team morale? What is this going to do to kind of the mental aspect of the game for our player, for our teams? And I was surprisingly shocked to see that this America side was not fazed by it, because in other times I feel like America, when referee decision doesn't go their way, or we've seen a red card go or an injury, you just kind of see heads go down. And they aren't really the same team from there, but they kind of just progressed from that. They said, okay, that's fine, and they went on and they went to go score the second goal. I don't know. What do you think about this team and the resilience to be able to come back and fight and then find the other goal?
No, I just like that. Just because a goal got called off, not everyone needs to get upset. It's like, okay, that's fine. We're gonna get that goal back. Surely it did take some time for that second goal to come in, but hey, they got the goal, and that's what mattered. What was even better was they were able to help hold on to that lead for a while until we got the second goal to go in. So I just liked it. It's like one of those instances, like if a red card's being goal, will the team's morale go down? Or if the team happens to score, the other team happens to score a goal, and maybe there's like an offside position where the defenders and everyone else is raising their hands. You just keep playing and playing. Just wait until something is being called. So I just liked how they weren't gonna let something like this bring themselves down, especially with Henry. Henry was finally gonna break that drought of goal scoring, but hey, he still tried to give it his all and try to get himself more opportunities to try to get the goal back. Sure, it didn't happen for him, but it seems his teammates did score, so that was all that mattered. That how this America team kept fighting and not going down.
Yeah, that was very good to see the resilience. And now let's talk a little bit more about these two goals that come. We alluded to the second one that is scored by Manuel Aguilera, but it's a great cross from Cordoba. Great finish by Aguilera as well to head it. And again, it's Cordoba coming up, big moment for him to be able to cross in and get that assist. And then, of course, once Oso Gonzalez comes in, he puts a great ball into the path of Cordoba and then chips it over Nahuel Guzman and does what Henry couldn't do, and that's get it on target without hitting the post. And then you see, obviously, the fact that, it goes in. Cordoba doesn't even celebrate. He just cold-blooded out there saying, look, pointing at me through the screen saying, look at this, Ivan, try to critique this. And you know what? Hats off. Credit to you, Cordoba. You've done what you did. And little by little, you are shutting me up. And that's exactly what I want, AJ. It's exactly what I want. And this is what I've been calling for in regards to Cordoba. And to see that he's finally doing it, really, it's amazing. And then the best part about this is that he wasn't even playing in that cam spot for the majority of the game. He was out on the left. And the one thing we've criticized him is whenever he's out on the left, he tends to just kind of disappear at times. But he's very active. He was very involved. He was doing a lot of the, dirty work, going back, defending. But he's also being very creative as well. So really, really good round game by Sebastian Cordoba. So, I mean, anything else to add on in regards to this America Tigres game? I think we've talked about the goals, we talked about the players, and anything else that's just kind of stood out.
I like to say it for Cordoba. I talked with Brian earlier on Twitter, and I call him this nickname, the Swiss Army knife, and we both agreed that's gonna be his name because just he was able, he could score goals, he could run, he could dribble, he can cross, he can do all these things. He even gave the assist to Emma Aguilera, which is a well-placed corner kick from him, which Emmanuel Aguilera heads it, and then does an amazing chip, gained the through ball from Oso Gonzalez. So I just really loved seeing how Cordoba, when he was playing on the left wing, as you mentioned, there's some times where he does have to struggle, and I think this game kind of just like showed that he was doing great in that position. Now consider how he could play on both sides of the wings and in midfield, except for certain defensive mid, I pretty much could say. I feel like if he can have more games like this, I feel like he's pretty much an all around midfielder for us and an all really great player.
Well, then he's just been baptized the Swiss Army knife here on the Eagle Eye podcast. But yes, Cordova, very good game. Just a very well-rounded game by the majority of this team. Again, some players just not up to par, and naming Gio and Henry just for these kind of situations. But again, it's not the worst game of them either. It's not like they were just not doing anything. They just kind of weren't 100% in the moment. But I think that pretty much wraps it up, Dylan. I'm Dylan. Excuse me, AJ. Sorry, my friend. 3 important points, like we mentioned, secures our spot in the top 4. It means that we don't have to worry about the repechaje. I think there's a huge sigh of relief when the final whistle blows and you think, okay, that game's done. We got the 3 points. We secured our spot in the top 4. Now let's take a breather. And then let's start training and focusing on the big game on this Friday against Juarez.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Well, like we mentioned, huge 3 points for America. Now we're going to shift our attention over to the upcoming game against FC Juarez. And of course, we're joined by a very special guest. And we will add him to the call in just a second. But I do want to remind you guys that today's episode is brought to you guys by Foot Cult. If you guys haven't done so already, make sure you guys go check them out, footcult.com. You guys can check out some of the great stuff that they already have and some of the great stuff that is going to be dropping very, very soon. Let me tell you guys what they have previewed to me. I'm just saying it is astonishing. So make sure you guys head over, check them out, follow them on Twitter, and use our discount code EEP at checkout to get anything on the website and get 10% off. All right, AJ, ready to welcome our guest?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, coming back and making his return to the Eagle Eye podcast, if you guys will gladly give a round of applause and welcome Mr. Edward, and from the Caballos Juarez, my good friend. How is it over there in El Paso?
Man, it's going good. You guys hear me fine?
I hear you fine. You're great. You're good. And welcome back to the podcast, my friend.
Man, thanks for having me back. It caught me a little by surprise, but since usually we play a little bit earlier in the season, but looks like we're going to close it off against each other, and just happy to be here and happy to talk some soccer.
Definitely going to be an interesting one. You guys have been on quite a good run, I would say. I mean, you guys got a result against Tigres, and then this last week, I mean, I don't know. I'm a little worried about this game. I mean, granted, we've gotten ourselves a top 4 spot, but again, you want to finish as high in the table as possible. So it's going to be an interesting one to be able to close out this one against Juarez, which, it's a road game and it's at Juarez. And AJ, you know that our road, we haven't been the best on the road sometimes, and Juarez has never been an easy place. So. A little bit up in the air, but talk to me more about your caballos.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a really weird season compared to last year when we were having a pretty good run before everything happened, and I think this year we've just been plagued with a couple losses, COVID related, a couple injuries. I think honestly for us, the thing that's kept us afloat is one man, and we all know who that man is, and it's Darío Lescano. But yeah, no, I mean he's. I'll get to him. I'll get to him right now. But I think we've had a lot of rotation in the squad. Obviously, we haven't really. Usually, Caballero likes to stick to one starting 11 for most of the season, and this year he just hasn't had the opportunity. Obviously, he has a much deeper squad this year. Maybe in ways that other teams would like to have that deep of a squad, but it's been just a weird year. Obviously, we won against Querétaro, but it wasn't convincing. We tied against Tigres, but then again, it's one of those where you're just, for example, the game against Tigres for me was like, okay, we can build on this, and then we play against Querétaro, and it's like, like I don't know, it doesn't look that great. But, at the end of the day, when you guys, when I logged onto this call, but people couldn't see me, 3 points is 3 points, right? And you take them whatever way you can. And especially in our case right now, where against you guys, it depends on us if we want to get that repechaje. If we win, we're in. If we're out, we depend on other teams. And at least in my experience and my preference, is take care of your own stuff. You know how Marshawn Lynch says, take care of your chicken, right? Like you got to take care of what you do and not worry on other teams, because then it just becomes a whole, oh, we could have done this, we could have done that. No, go get the 3 points and win. So I definitely we'll see a very motivated side on Friday, and we'll also see Marco Fabian back and a couple of players who were, sidelined because of COVID.
Should be an interesting one. Like I mentioned, yeah, I think I think you guys are definitely not an easy game by any means necessary, and especially when you guys are in your own home territory. I think America knows this, and I think they'll go as well prepared as possible. But you mentioned that, you guys are going to be motivated. You guys definitely want to take care of your guys' own situation, get into that repechaje, clinch a spot in the playoffs from there on. And I think America needs to focus on, okay, so what can we do in order to secure our spot even higher in the table? And they know that momentum is crucial. They know that momentum is key, and they want to ride on what they just did against Tigres. So I expect both teams coming out very positive, which, could allude to a very promising game on Friday.
I was going to ask you, do you expect America to come out with full force, or maybe do you expect Piojo to kind of maybe save some of those guys since they already locked up those top 4 spots? I know it's something that maybe he's done in the past to, when we were playing in the top 8, but is that something you expect or something we should be looking out for?
I'll let AJ answer first, and then I'll kind of build on what he says.
I feel like in this case, yes, we secured the top 4, but I feel like we kind of want to keep the players' rhythms going. It's like one of those instances where I feel like you shouldn't really then allow okay, it's a team where they're not doing oh so good, but then when we look at the past records that we played against FC Juarez, this is a team that we've always had problems with. So I feel like in this case, still go with your best starting 11, maybe take a player or 2 out of the positions. Let's give this other player a go and see, because we want to keep everyone in good rhythm. We want to throw a completely different starting 11, like a second team that's going to maybe throw off the whole rhythm, especially considering that now that they're going to have the repechaje and the Liguilla is being played, which some those teams that secure the top 4 are going to be having breaks. So this thing is just still put your best team in there. You want to keep that the rhythm going, everything flowing for America.
And exactly on what he was saying, I think Piojo even alluded to that, saying, look, we've gotten the results against Tigres, but we know we have a very important game against Juarez, and he wants to build on that momentum. He doesn't want to let it go. He knows how important this is, right? He's a very veteran manager when it comes to Liguillas, so he knows what works and what doesn't. And to be quite honest with you, I don't even think we have the squad depth to be able to put on a whole different starting 11 without having to repeat some of these starters. But I think what AJ said perfectly sums it up. I think he will come out. He will keep that momentum going. If anything, just 2 changes. I could see Sergio Diaz probably getting a start to get a little bit more game time under his belt. Maybe even Ibarwen. But those are big ifs. I do think he wants to completely gel this team, because look, at the end of the day, you only have one real true game under your belt to really try to get what you want out of this team before you head off into the playoffs. Because, granted, you have a great break and you have a lot of rest, and you're going to get a couple players back from injury, but training doesn't substitute an official match to actually gel everything together. And so I think that he definitely want to keep everything, which like I mentioned, will allude to probably a really good back and forth game is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I feel like that was just one thing I wanted to keep my eyes on in terms of our chances for getting in, because for us, 1 or 2 changes, that's enough to maybe make a change with some of the quality players we have in some positions in case, and also with some of the players that we're getting back, like I mentioned, Marco Fabian should be back. He actually maybe about an hour and a half ago released a video saying that ready to beat America on Friday, how he is. Yeah. And then who else are we getting back? Oh, we're getting back Culebra, who's a very important player for us. Eric Castillo. I don't know if he'll start right off the bat, but he's one of those guys that coming off the bench can really change a match for us, like he did earlier in the season. But during like I alluded to, that depth that we have just allows. And then Caballero kind of not finding that starting 11 that he wants to work with has just really led to a lot of moving and changing and try this guy here, try this, out of position type of stuff. So it's I was just curious because I really want to get in, and I really want America to be as low in quality as they can be, even though you guys have some great players in every line.
Well, I mean, you're talking to the originals, to the original people of putting players in the positions that they don't belong to. We had a left back playing center back for like 2 games in a row. So it's gonna be a promising game. I will say this much, right? And it should be quite the spectacle for Friday night, which should be, I think, a good game over there down in Juarez. I mean, it sounds like you guys really want this, and you guys have the players for it. So I don't see how you guys don't come out as. I want to ask you this though, which I will very interesting at least for what your response is going to be. But how do you think Juarez plays against America? How do you think Juarez not just lines them up? Because I'll ask you for your predicted lineup in just a second. But how do you think, tactically speaking, they go and approach the game from kickoff?
Yeah, it's weird because Caballero has this sort of molding ideology in terms of game, right? We'll have games where for 20, 25 minutes, we'll dominate possession, we'll take it to the team. And then we'll have, spurts where, we stay back, we set up our four defenders, our 4 midfielders, really clog up that midfield, and then kind of hope on, all right, all we got to do, get a stop, kick it out to Lescano. He'll hold the ball, and while he holds the ball, you have players like Rayo Fernandez, Eric Castillo, Marco Fabian, Flavio Santos. You have those guys running the wings, and then you build a counterattack. For this match, though, I feel like he's going to go with the game plan he went with Tigres, right? Where at the beginning, it's like a boxer. You have to take those hits, right? You just have to take those hits, cover up, don't get hurt too bad. But once you get to the 5th, 6th round, and in the case for us, it'd be the last 15 minutes of the first half, last 20 minutes of the first half. All right, like other team's tired. Let's start building possession. Let's start moving it around. Let's see what we can do. And that's something I anticipate we're going to do more, not only more, but more effectively, because we have a player like Marco Fabian back, right? Where you can put him in the middle role, right behind Lescano, and kind of let him play, right? Have him come to the side, pick up the ball, change it, go over, kind of, let him get into that creative playmaker role that maybe we haven't seen from him in the past, but it's definitely something that at this point of his career, he has to, take more head on, since it's just, his athletic abilities and where he's at. So I definitely feel it's going to be, like you said, an exciting match going back and forth a lot. But I do expect that if we get to the 65th minute and we're tied or you guys are up, you're going to see Caballero go with the Mexican saying of toda la carne al asador. He's going to try to go with everything, because in prior games, he usually waits, 80, 85th. But since this game is one of those where, hey, win and you're in, he's going to try to do it from the get-go. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes with a much more audacious starting 11 from the get-go, just to get that, maybe starting with two strikers or something different like that. But I definitely see this as a match where we're going to take our hits, just because America is a great team with a lot of great quality players that you have to respect, but that eventually we'll start settling in and maybe taking that attacking mentality and then settling into it, since we are at home and since it's a match we need.
Interesting. Okay. I personally thought maybe Juarez, because of this pressure to get the result, would actually try to bring the game straight to America, which, would have definitely been an interesting kind of thing to see. Whether or not it happens, we'll have to wait and see on Friday. But AJ, hearing all of this, I don't know, what's your take on this, and whilst you also answer that, give me an answer to this question as well. Is knowing what we know now about Juarez, what we just heard, how do you feel America then go and plants themselves? We know how important America, not how important, but how much they like to get that early goal and how much that can build on this side. Knowing that we're going to be able to maybe get a good, looks at goal, how does this paint for America on Friday?
It's tough to say, because just hearing how Juarez are going to play with the idea of them taking a few hits, I'm thinking we could take advantage of that. But then at the same time, it's if Juarez can take all of those hits and nothing's going out for America, at some point FC Juarez is going to strike right back, either get on a counterattack or just catch America by complete surprise. and then just score a goal, because we have seen from time to time how America always just seems to struggle against FC Juarez. We go back to La Copa MX, where they knocked us out on penalties, how we beat them in the final, but that was only to a 1-0 goal, which you scored by a penalty. Then when we're going in the regular season, if I'm not mistaken, the last time we tied 1-1, and then which I think it was a year or last season ago or so, we lost 3-1 to FC Juarez. It's one of those things where it's like, we have an idea to how FC Juarez are going to play. We know that the position that they're in and what this game means to them. So it's at this point that I feel like America needs to do their very best just to simply just get themselves in a more comfortable position. Yeah, we secured our position in the top four, but we want to make sure we keep it that way. At the same time, for a team like FC Juarez, I feel like America really shouldn't get themselves completely distracted, because if it's going to be another one of those games where FC Juarez are going to be taking the game to us while America are going to be doing the same thing, it's going to just feel like who can get that first goal in, because then I feel like from there, that other team might be the one that could try to get things going. Like last time we played, we lost 3-1. We scored first, and then as soon as we got the red card, and then FC Juarez make the most out of it, floodgates open for them, and then you just start scoring goal on us left and right. So I just think in this game, America just needs to be really careful about how FC Juarez is going to play, because they say they might throw a couple of surprises that we have not seen before, considering how much squad depth there is with this FC Juarez side. So it's one of those things, like, just really keep on the lookout for some of these players and just be very careful when they're approaching us. Like I mentioned, we can keep knocking on their door, but we can't seem to knock that door down. They're just going to do it right to us and just catch them when we least expect it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Juarez has definitely quality players that can really, really hurt us. But like you mentioned, though, I think the biggest issue would be if America does get these chances, they knock on the door, and nothing seems to be going in. I fear, what is that going to do to the morale of, like, not just the players that are missing, but the whole team as a general. And they're thinking, well, it's going to be one of those nights where just nothing goes our way. And that kind of plays back on everything. But it will be interesting to see how both teams set up. And this is why this is exactly why I want to ask you, Edward, what do you think your predicted starting 11 is going to be for Friday?
Yeah, so just based off what both of you guys said, the game against Querétaro, the game against Tigres, that game showed us that all we need is one opportunity. All we need is one. All we need is one ball to Lescano and let him see what happens. Either it could be, for example, with Querétaro, it could be off a set piece where, send all your men up and, see what happens. Or with Tigres, where get them on a counterattack, give them the ball inside the box and let him go to work. I mean, he's proven he's one of the best strikers in the league, right? So that's kind of one of those things where I'm like, you guys can keep banging on the door, but all we need is one. And all we need is one while we're 0-0 or 1-1 or tied, right? Because I think one of the things about us is that we start kind of maybe getting a little bit too frantic when we're down, right? Maybe leaving open spaces behind, leaving open holes, playing a little bit wider because we want to go get that result. And that's even more the case with, the stakes that this match carries. In terms of the starting 11, it's going to be interesting to see what Caballero decides to do, because we are, getting back those players that, were out because of COVID. And as in terms of what the social media account has shown us, I haven't seen if those players have actually resumed training yet. Marco Fabian, for example, he was very active on social media throughout his whole COVID thing, and he was working out at home and everything. But like you said earlier, right, practice sessions don't really equal game, right? Actual game-like reps, right? So it's going to be a thing where, does he start him? Does he not? Does he bring him off the bench? Do you go all the way ahead? What I can say is we'll probably go Palos, goalkeeper. I think our back four will repeat, which will be Alan Mendoza, who played a long time in Pumas. And then we'll go Edgardo Marin, Chivas player, former Chivas player. And then we'll go Gustavo Velasquez, who's been with us since we got to Liga MX. And then Luis Lopez, Cholo Lopez. And then in the midfield, I think it's where it gets interesting, right? Because Esquivel picked up a red card against Querétaro, so he won't play. The past 2 weeks, Caballero has gone with a young guy we signed from Dorados, Francisco Contreras, but he's been kind of shaky, to say the least. And we're finally having Intriago back healthy. So I think it would be a deal where we see Intriago Contreras or Zavala, who's coming back, Jesus Zavala from Monterrey, see Intriago Zavala. And then, and then you get to your three attackers, right? I think we'll probably see Flavio Santos start, Rayo Fernandez. And then that's where you get into the question. Do you put in a Marco Fabian, right from the get-go? Do you go with Eric Castillo, right? And then play Flavio Santos behind Lescano? Or do you play Eric Castillo and Marco Fabian and then Rayo, right? It's one of those things where it'll be different. The past 2 weeks, he actually went with a second 9, which was Victor Magnon, who played really well in Ascenso, right? I don't foresee that happening just because it hasn't really worked out with that second 9. So I do think he's going to go back to having those 2 outside wings with having that 10 play behind Lescano, which hopefully is Fabian or Santos. And then, of course, we get to our striker, and that's Lescano. That's undisputed. Of all the ones I can confirm to you that are starting, it'd be Lescano and Palos. Everything else is movable, but those 2 I can guarantee.
All right. Well, I mean, it promises to be a very, very good starting 11 from your guys' perspective. AJ, just besides Lescano, another name that pops out from that lineup that you're just thinking, okay, they could definitely cause a problem or two.
I want to say Magnon, but then you said he may not start because I did look him up quickly just because he used to be in Tlaxcala FC, which is a team that I do support. So I was like, this guy actually has some pretty good stats from the Ascendant, but this is the Liga MX. Those are 2 completely different leagues to how a player can perform. But I feel like just hearing how 9 of those players are interchangeable pretty much, it's making you wonder who's going to really be danger, who is not. Because like I mentioned before, SOS could throw us a complete curveball where okay, what's happening? Like, what's what? We know Lescano's already deadly enough. He's one of the he's a key player in the FC Juarez that's been leading them to fight for the repechada. I just then think about, I don't know, it's hard. I already know Lescano's a dangerous player, but just trying to figure out who else can be dangerous in that starting at 11.
Yeah, I forgot to mention like Martin Galvan. That's another guy who's pretty good, who came over from the 2nd division in Spain, who we've actually brought on as a sub against Querétaro and Tigres. That's another guy who can play right behind Lescano and kind of fill that same role that Fabian fills, right? It's a lot of interchangeable pieces, and it's a lot of what is it that we're looking to do, right? Or what is it that he's trying to accomplish with the lineup?
Yeah, no, I feel like maybe players like Ale Mendoza can be quite dangerous because he was a player that played in Pumas, was a solid player at his time over there before he made his way to FC Juarez. You got Flavio Santos. He seems to look like a decent shout for this FC Juarez side. So just, I guess those are some of the players I got to think of. And I feel like Magnon, who knows if he does happen to get the start, but as you mentioned, or maybe he may not, but if he does, he might surprise me. He could finally get himself his first goal in the 1st division for FC Juarez. So that's who I got I'd say for America to look out for.
Well, that will be interesting. But let's talk a little bit more about how America might plant themselves, and let's talk starting 11 from our perspective. And we reached out to our starting 11 guru, Christian, who for some reason is in Wyoming trying to put in more ballots. I don't know what he's doing all over the state, but he has told us that America would probably repeat the same lineup. And goes back to the first question you kind of asked us, whether or not we were going to rest players. But it doesn't look like this is going to happen. It looks like America's going to come out with the same starting 11. Which AJ, would you gladly read out to us the formation and the lineup that we used against Tigres, which we most likely be using against Juarez?
So we're gonna go with a 4-4-2. We'll be having Guillermo Ochoa as our goalkeeper. Right back is going to be Jorge Sanchez. Our 2 center backs, Sebastian Cáceres, Emmanuel Aguilera. Left back is going to be Luis Fuentes. And in the midfield, we're having on the left mid side is Sebastian Cordova. 2 center midfielders are going to be Santiago Cáceres, Richard Sanchez. On the right mid side, it's going to be Leonardo Suarez. And up front, we're going to have Henry Martin and Giovanni Dos Santos.
Yes, and a quick update for all of you guys. Federico Viñas is still out because of COVID. He will probably, he'll definitely be back for when Liga starts. It's just, he wasn't able to, he wasn't Zlatan. He wasn't able to, beat it right away. So he's still out. And also a little bit of news in regards to the club. Benedetti looks to be in a very promising position in his rehabilitation from his injury, and looks like he might be back for the later stages of the Liga if we get that far. And I know Miguel Herrera has confirmed that already. But Same lineup, same kind of idea. I would imagine, AJ, as we were going up against Tigres. How do you think Piojo Herrera plans his players to go out and try to get the victory? We know we got to take the game to Juarez right away, and we know that we got to build on this momentum. Is there one thing or one player in specific that you just think, okay, from the get-go, you just kind of have to go and just start producing for us?
It's between Cordova and Henry Martin, but if I really want to say it's going to be Henry Martin. He needs to break this goal drought right now, because if he does not get any goals right before the Liguilla starts, I feel like it's going to be a tough time for him. Considering the offside, his goal that got called, not offside, his goal that got called off due to it for the ball not being in the back net. So it just feels like from the get-go, if Henry Martin can get himself open or just get on a one-on-one to challenge an FC Juarez defender, then so be it. He's going to need to be the one to get a goal going. An early goal is going to be crucial for this Americas. Like I can say, we don't know how FC Juarez are going to be playing against us. So an early goal will be a good start for us from there, and to just build up from there to see what we can do.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And like, we just mentioned, if we do get these chances and to what we're alluding to is that Juarez is going to kind of, take those punches in the beginning, in the opening minutes of the match, then you're thinking, okay, Henry, this is a very good, promising opportunity for you. And you talked about Cordova, and another player that I'm looking at is Leo, two players that I need to be very creative and need to provide that assist to Henry and to Gio, but mainly Henry. And I think he needs to put these chances away. If he has one or two, then that's got to be a goal at least, because you don't want your starting forward to be coming into the league on quite the goal drought. I mean, granted, he has 6 goals this season, but when's the last time he scored?
Whew, I cannot remember that from the top of my head, but it just seems like it's been a while. That's it. So, and that kind of just explains the goal drought that Henry Martin's been on.
Yeah, so we need him to produce. Just need a little bit more. But talk to me a little bit more on how you're feeling now that we've kind of confirmed our lineup, Edward.
Well, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I was ecstatic about what you said, but no, I mean it's what's expected. Well, while you were telling me, you mentioned that it's it's a 4-4-2 kind of. I was actually going to ask you in terms of a more tactical analysis. How much does it change from, because Piojo is at least in my mind, he's famous from going to that 5-3-2 and then having those wing backs trek up a lot. He did that a lot with like Paul Aguilar and stuff like that. How has that transformed this season, from how it doesn't look like he's using that line of 5 in the back, but I would imagine a guy like Cáceres probably drops down when you guys are on the offensive, if you want to illuminate me.
Yeah, I mean, granted, he's always known for this 5-3-2, and especially whenever he took the Mexican national team to the World Cup, we saw that. But he, ever since his second spell here at America, he's kind of gone back to kind of a more traditional 4-4-2 formation when it comes to America. I think he's just kind of trying to stray away from that 5-3-2 formation and kind of build on something new. Sometimes you'll see a 4-4-2, sometimes you'll see a 4-2-3-1. He'll kind of vary it. This season, he has had to play with the formation, one, because of tactical reasons, and two, because of squad depth and injuries and all that stuff. We've seen the back 5 this season. We've seen just a bunch of combinations, but I think what really worked for him so far has been kind of having those 4 defenders, having those 4 midfielders, and chucking up 2 forwards or maybe 1 center attacking forward, and then a natural striker up top. It just varies. I think what we will see on Friday is you're going to see a very free roaming Gio, right? He's not going to be kind of a natural forward. He's going to be kind of given the liberty to move left, move right, give Henry the option to just kind of, I'm not going to say that they're the same player or they have the same roles here, but kind of what Lescano does for you guys, Henry Martin's kind of have to do for us. He's going to have to get the ball. He's going to have to hold it. And then he's going to have to play it off to Gio. He's going to have to play it off to Leo. He's going to have to play it off to Cordoba, whoever it is that he plays it off to. But he has to have that kind of primary role of being the holding forward. And then Gio has more of the role of, okay, I got to be more of the creator. I have to be, making opportunities happen for not just Henry, but I think for Leo running in and Cordova, who we know he likes to drift into the middle as well. So at least from a tactical perspective, yeah, it's gonna be interesting because you mentioned Cáceres most likely will definitely drop because he has more of that center defensive mid role, and Richard Sanchez is given a little bit more of a liberty to say, okay, go push forward, be a little bit more of entries, create something for us going forward. But he is a little bit strict in saying, okay, also remember there's defensive duties to do because we don't want to give you guys as much of the midfield as possible. If we can close it out to you guys, that's exactly what we want to do. So, I mean,
yeah,
it's going to be an interesting perspective, tactically speaking.
Yeah, no, that the thing you mentioned about free roaming Gio, I think that's actually something we can highlight and look for in this match because how you said how you guys changed. Ideally, us as a team, FC Juarez, we and defense we're usually a 4-4-2, and on offense we're a 4-2-3-1, but sometimes it could be like a 4-1-1-3-1, or it changes, right? But with how you said with that case of Gio being kind of free roaming. It's going to be interesting to see because when we do those two lines of four, it does get really compact, that midfield. So if Gio's going to have that free roaming, I'm interested to see how he picks out his spots to where he can create havoc, because that's one thing we've really struggled with is attackers running behind the backs of our center backs. If Gio can kind of find that sweet spot in between those two lines of four and then hit it to Martin, I think that's something to look out for because it's definitely been a weakness for us.
Well, if we're talking about weaknesses now, I think the one thing that is going to you guys are going to be able to pry on in regards to America is the fact that our defense, whilst, yes, it looked very good against Tigres and we're all shocked at the fact that it did, I think that the right player like Lescano will be able to open up and be able to cause havoc because I think we know that, Emmanuel Aguilera isn't the most reliable center back. Cáceres isn't 100%, just yet. Miguel has also confirmed that he's looking forward to these kind of to this big break because then his center backs are going to be more at 100%, and his midfielders are going to be a little bit better, a little bit more sharper. So it does worry me. You guys have some pace, and Fuentes isn't the fastest defender either. So if you guys can catch us on break in the transition, you're gonna find George pretty high up on the pitch. You're gonna find yourself a left back that is on the wrong side of 30 and not the fastest player either. And you're gonna go up against two center backs that I think still haven't gelled 100% and aren't even 100% just match day fit ready. So it will be interesting to see, because I think both defenses are a little bit on the weak points of both teams, which I think will promise for a very entertaining game, at least in regards to chances created. I don't know if there will be as many goals as we maybe intend them to be, but I think there definitely will be chances for both teams.
Yeah, no, I think, what you said exactly. One of the things that for us, one of the big differences from Clausura 2022 Guardianes is that in Clausura, our transitions were a lot quicker. So we were able to use that speed. And this year, they just haven't been the same. And, that can be attributed to a lot of many factors. At least for me, you can go with factor one and then go to 1A, 1B, 1C. But factor one is not having Diego Roland. And that's the biggest one for us right now that's really hindered us. And, because, for example, a player like Fabian, right, he's game-changing player, right? He hasn't scored yet, but he's made some plays that you're like, wow, well, this is why we brought this guy. Like, this is why he has the quality he has, right? But, he doesn't have that speed. He doesn't have that one-on-one ability. With him, you're kind of going for that free-ranging 10 who constructs plays, finds the pass, build on his experience, right? So this is going to be a game where, a game like a player like Mauro Fernandez, right? He's going to have to, get behind those, like Luis Fuentes, for example, right? Get behind him, make some sort of play. 60-minute and onward, Eddie Castillo, right? Bring him on, have him use his pace to make some type of difference. I think that's something interesting to look for. And it's one of those, kind of the game inside of the game, right? See how like the game's developing and see, all right, what do we do? What happens? Where can we beat them? Obviously, I think, Lescano's going to infuriate you guys because he is infuriating if you play him with, how many times he falls and calls for a foul and how he gets on a center back's nerves. But I think in spite of that, or in spite of something that he does to, kind of hold up play so the team can establish their formation, it's going to be interesting to see just how those wings kind of play out, right? Especially because I can't tell you who's going to start in the wings. So we might go for a more conservative side that tries to play the ball, or we might try to go for more speed, right? And, either one of those, see how it plays to your guys' left and right back.
Well, it definitely will be an interesting one. And you guys can catch this game on Friday live via Through the NA. It's going to be at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 9 Central, 10 Eastern. Again, that is going to be live through the NA. And for whatever reason you are not going to be able to watch that, make sure you guys head over to our Twitter account at Eagle Eye Podcast. We'll be live tweeting the whole game so you guys don't miss a second of the action at all. All right, gentlemen, we've come to the end of the podcast, but before we wrap things up, I do want to ask for your guys' predictions. And so, as courtesy, give me your prediction, Edward. America versus Juarez. Juarez versus America, excuse me. What do you think is going to go down on Friday?
You guys are going to say I'm biased, even though I'm wearing the shirt, right? But
hey, it's all part of it.
1-0 Lescano. So 1-0 Lescano, because he's the whole team. I'm not even going to say Juarez. 1-0 Lescano.
Well, that's a good shout. He's definitely a handful. So I could see him definitely causing a lot of trouble, and I could definitely see you guys getting the goal. AJ, your prediction for Friday? Are you going to be as adventurous as always, or are you going to be a little bit more conservative?
No, I ain't going with 3-0. I ain't going with 3-0 like I said for every time. So no, but I'm gonna say 2-1. 2-1. Yeah, 2 goals from Henry Martin and 1 goal from Lescano FC from Dario Lescano.
All right. Well, Lescano all over the pitch in this one, apparently. So we have 1-0 to Juarez. We have 2-1 to America. And I'm going to be a little stickler as well, and call me biased as well if you want to. But I'm going America 1 and Juarez 0. I think it's important that this team gets a clean sheet at the end of the season. I think it will boast well for the defense. I think it's going to be a very, very tough battled match out on the pitch. I do see a lot of chances coming up. I don't expect a lot of goals to happen, but we might be proven wrong. We might just see like a 6-4 game. You never know. It's just
one can dream.
Happen. Yeah, one can dream. But we'll have to wait and see. Although I do hope that we get a really good match, and at the end of the day, Liga MX is gonna Liga MX, so you never really know what's gonna happen. So, it's going to be an interesting one. You guys definitely do not want to miss this one. And we know we definitely will be watching and seeing how our team can definitely close out the season and get into the Liga form that we hope that they can get into. Even despite everything that's been going on in our season, we could still maybe clinch that second spot and hopefully look at a very, very promising Liga run. Alrighty then. That pretty much does it for this, unless you guys have anything else to add on in regards to this game. I don't think so. Looks like we're all thumbs up here. Okay. Well, I just want to say, Edward, thank you so much for coming on the podcast again. Again, it's been a pleasure. You've brought us some very good FC Juarez insight. And, best of luck to you and your team on Friday.
Thanks for having me, guys. And hopefully, that best of luck for my team is a win. So,
well, we'll have to wait and see. But it's been good. And, just can't wait to have you on the podcast again. Maybe we'll see yourselves in the Liga.
Maybe. Hopefully.
Alrighty then, man. Well, if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys go check him out over on Twitter. Where can they find you on Twitter for everyone who's listening right now?
Caballos Juarez, capital C, capital J. Just tweet about a bunch of things, including FC Juarez, and a lot of my interest on there. Just try to open it up, but also kind of keep it, based to the team I love and support.
All right. Well, most definitely check him out. He's doing some great work covering Juarez. And if it wasn't for COVID, he definitely would have been at that game on Friday, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Most definitely.
All right, then. Well, AJ, thank you so much for coming out. I know you're a very busy man. Best of luck to you and all your endeavors over there in Brooklyn. We'll be back to talk all things Lady Aguilas on Thursday, so you guys don't want to miss any of that action. And our two sides just met each other not so long ago in the feminine side of things. And guess what? America ended up winning 1-0, although it wasn't the prettiest game of the ladies. I'll tell you that much. So you guys want to hear how that went? Make sure you guys tune in on Thursday. We'll be recapping all of that and the game against Lucas. So again, don't want to miss a second of it. Thank you to everyone that's been watching. Thank you to our sponsors, Foot Cult, for again sponsoring us and making this even more of an adventure. And thank you to everyone that's listening. We don't know what tomorrow is going to look like, but we hope that it's for the best. All right. So we'll see you guys very soon. As always, take care. Wear your mask. Stay safe. We'll see you guys on the next one. And as always, Arriba la America. Good night, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was another production of the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 source for all things Club America in English. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Eagle Eye Podcast and get all the latest news and coverage. And subscribe to our podcast wherever it is you may listen.